Okay, we'll
Yeah.
start reading. Yeah, it's already 10. So another very tough idea is our ideas. Nobody gets attached to brackets a plus b square. Nobody in this world gets attached to it as that is a matter relating to buddhi. But then we do get attached to certain notions about certain gods and places. For us, Kasi is a place to go for liberation. For Muslims, it is the Mecca. For somebody else, it is Jerusalem, and so on. We are attached to certain places and things like this. When someone says we get liberation by going to Mecca, and we know that it is only at Kasi we get liberation, we are not going to accept Mecca because we have accepted the relationship as permanent, as if it is something unalterable. This problem arises essentially in Vijnanamaya Kosha. We, for example, may say that revered Babuji's method is the only way by which we can realize. We may go on arguing about it, but please note that it is because of the attachment to the feeling we have got, and there may be many other methods which we are not aware of. And when this awareness develops, then we feel liberated. Important point here, practical point. When we have that openness, not that alternative opinions are necessarily true, but when we have openness, then we are liberated. We become closed or attached to our ideas, our feelings, and more so with our ahankar. The feeling that I have written yesterday beautifully, therefore I shall write today beautifully, is not necessarily true. The same poet has given different pieces which are not equally beautiful or pleasing. However great the poet may be, this is the position. But we tend to attach certain greatness to all that was written by him. Suppose someone says Shakespeare has written something very good, and we don't accept that and says Shakespeare seems to have written some nonsense, the other man is prepared to fight with us on that account. He goes to the extent of having a fist fight. The reason is he has granted a certain amount of permanency to that person's capacity, that he can also erase something which he does not want to accept. When we don't accept that we can err, it is our ahankar that is causing the trouble. It is our ahankar which says, yesterday I was recognized, today I am not recognized. A player who was the best player yesterday, when told today that he is out of form and therefore removed from the team, will not be prepared to accept it. Yesterday someone was a splendid person in painting. Today, even if his painting is rubbish, he will not be prepared to accept the same. He would like to argue again and again on his horses rather than accept today he has given some rubbish. He will be adamant and refuse to accept his failure. Once we have granted certain amount of efficiency to a person, saying that one can do something very good, he tends to think that he will always do well. That is the problem, which is the essential problem of ego. If that is cut off, then naturally ahankar comes to its balance. I think these are extremely important observations which we have to observe in our own mind, and these things should get reflected in our diary. Diary written in a ritualistic manner will not help. Suppose we should be scientifically observe our thoughts and put it down, even if they're unpleasant, even if they don't match to our perceptions about ourselves. Whatever thought or feeling comes, we should write down. Then only we can judge the state of our mind. Otherwise, it's like an ostrich-like policy, which will not help in spirituality. Spirituality basically is satya, truthfulness. We have to follow. We have to be truthful to ourselves. Just because truth is painful, we can't take an ostrich policy. So all this detailed analysis by Sir will help us to clarify and assess ourselves actually. So we'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Anybody has got any observations or comments or any point to better understand this? So it's very, even though it's very clear cut.
Just one thing, I'm hoping people know the ostrich policy.
Ostrich is Shuturmukh, that it's in the deserts. It buries its head in the sand and thinks that, there's no problem.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead. This tendency to think that I cannot err because I was told that I did not err earlier is the main problem, whatever is the field. So when we talk about renunciation of our mental concepts, our feelings and our ahankar, they are really the toughest stumbling blocks. The remaining things can be easily given up, as many people have renounced their houses, they left their wives, their children and gone away, but they could not give up these three things. That is why revered Babuji says, even when they have gone, they have not forgotten their places. The reason for that is these are the three things that stay. One thing is no such renunciation is possible. Second thing is, even if we say, I go away to another place, we have not renounced. Renunciation is possible for Grihastha only because there is a delegation of responsibility that is possible in a family. We can delegate our responsibility. If I have to work, I will say, my brother will do it, my sister will do it, my wife will do it, my children will do it, and therefore the task is done. At the same time, I am not associated with it. But such delegation we are not prepared to do. We tend to hold on even after retirement. Even when we are on the deathbed, we would like to hold on to the keys of the house. The keys are something that goes to the next generation because of the death, rather than a willing parting away with that. Delegation is something we don't do. Delegation is possible only in Grihastha atmosphere. A sannyasi has nothing to delegate. We can delegate our responsibilities, duties. Even when the ends do not meet, we can ask somebody else to do something. We can take help and thereby our ego is controlled. The feeling that we are the sustainer of the family also is lost when we know that someone else in the family is going to help us, which is possible only for a Grihastha. The advantages of being a Grihastha are very many so far as spirituality is concerned, provided we think. But if we hold to our ideas, our notions, we are definitely not going to learn anything in Grihastha life. We will remain as worse fools. But what makes me feel this is possible is due to the constant meditation that I do. When I meditate on the heart, where it beats, I always know there is a balance. There is always something of an activity. There is always something of inactivity. There is a state of torpor or a state of action. These are the two things that I know. I can choose to be one. Let go. Let go is a principle we have got to learn as a Grihastha, and that is the real renunciation that we are capable of. That is the Vairagya we can have. Vairagya in the real sense is possible only for a Grihastha. Sannyasins, from my point of view, are not Vairagyas. They are people who have abdicated their responsibility towards themselves, towards their spiritual progress, and to others who are dependent upon them and therefore are essentially sinners. A Grihastha is one who lives according to the verdict of God as a trustee and enables the divinity to express through him and also be in a position to reach back his homeland with no luggage. Travel light, as revered Babuji puts it. Travel light is possible only for a Grihastha. We can hand over the responsibility to someone else. A beautiful example Master gives in that article, Travel Light. He talks about the passengers in the train to give everything to the guard of the train, who will keep it there, and we will be in a position to move on without the luggage. How many of us have thought about this as a delegation of responsibility? I do not know, but I thought it as delegation of responsibilities. I don't have the responsibility to carry my luggage. Someone else is doing that job. That can be my son, that can be my wife, it can be my son-in-law, That can be my daughter. It does not matter much who, but somebody else can be delegated that responsibility. In that article, Master was talking about Guru and God. If we take that particular article of Master, Travel Light, that is the end result of renunciation. End result of renunciation is we should be in a position to travel light, and that is possible only and only when we trust a person. Not only we should be a trustee of that person, but we should also trust that person, and such a trust is possible through Viveka. When we know daily through the influx of the divine, the nearness of the divine, we will be in a position to understand that he is there and I can hand over everything to him. Then it is not a question of renunciation. It is a question of handing over back the luggage to whom it belongs. It belongs to him. The world belongs to him. Everything here belongs to him. And we hand it over to him. Having brought it down to the level to which we are capable of, having protected it in the way we are supposed to protect it, not squandering as no one will squander if he is a trustee. If a man behaves as a trustee, he will not squander. He will discharge his responsibilities fully. So Vairagya in that sense is what we should develop. Vairagya is not inactivity. Vairagya is not activity. It is a balance between these two. That is why we find in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord talking about going beyond raga and dvesha. We should have neither of these, no attachment, no aversion. Only a person who can have approach to that level, that condition of being neutral in the whole thing and behaves responsibly as a trustee. Such a person alone is a virakta. Such a person alone can be said to have vairagya. So in spirituality and experiences in showers of divine grace, Babuji talks about person having his thorn stuck, and then he feels the pain, and then when the pain is relieved, he feels comfort, and then that's a beautiful article. But towards the end of the article, he is asking us to meditate and remember a quotation. I think it's the famous Kabir quotation. He says, "Mera mujh mein kuch nahi, jo kuch bhi hai tera. Tera tujhko dene se mera kya hoga?" I mean, whatever is there for me, whatever is there for me is yours. Whatever little is there, it is yours. There is nothing in me which is mine. The quote is, there is nothing in me which is mine. Whatever little is there is yours. So even if we contemplate on that lines, which Babuji says we should all cling to that idea, that comes nearer to Vairagya actually. So we are handing over, we are born out of nothing. We are a GB with a few tendencies. We take on a human body in the womb, and everything, our body develops because of the invisible divine force which causes the metabolism and all growth and everything. So we have grown up to this level because of the force of God. So everything belongs to him. So we have to give it back to him. So the gist there. So that's what, when we go on a train, heavy luggage, we book it in the guard so that when we get down, we take it back.
Nowadays, it will be more related to the flight.
Flight also. But at least I know, because I traveled 12 times in my 7 times in my 12 years of work in the army. So wherever I used to get transferred, I used to carry about 12-15 boxes. So I'll book it in the luggage van and then take it away. So that you can travel light. So the Babuji says in several letters he has written to Abhyasis, you consider me as a donkey, you put all the load on me, I'll carry it for you. You just relax and enjoy life. So you surrender your samskaras to him, then you become light. I mean, this idea is, even if you start thinking in those terms, your heart starts getting purified straight away. Anyway, we'll go ahead. Any questions regarding this? I'm just dwelling and talking because this will allow these thoughts of the master to sink in our consciousness. That's why I'm trying to spend more time talking.
And this one also, right? Vairagya is not inactivity, Vairagya is not activity. It is a balance between these two. So that's like people tend to misinterpret it that should not do anything.
If you see Shat Sampati, first is Sham. Sham is the tranquil state of mind, which Babuji says is the duty of every Abhyasi to be as free from thoughts as possible, as early as possible, and says it is the duty of the Abhyasi as well as the trainer to ensure that the person who has joined his system should be quickly moved to a state of Sham. And when a person moves into that state, and then it is very easy to perpetuate that state by just paying attention to that state in a form of constant remembrance. So the quality of that tranquility or peace keeps on getting rarefied, and then you acquire such a taste, or you will get addicted to that tranquility, or that gets converted into devotion, and then you lose interest in worldly objects. When I use the word worldly objects, not sensual pleasures itself, but name, fame, and attachment to these ideas. You find they're worthless, or comparatively, they don't have the same value. Just like a person who's got a few pebbles in his hand, suppose you give him diamonds, he'll just throw the pebbles. So when a person, when he is in contact with divine consciousness, the tranquility which the mind enjoys, he feels it is the most valuable thing. So all other attachments to name, fame, and then, attachment to your own thoughts, attachment to your own feelings, attachment to your own perceptions, or your own political philosophies, everything about whatever prejudices you have or likings you have, you will all leave them, because you find they're of no value like pebbles, actually, when compared with the diamonds which God gives you when you sit in meditation. So that's how Sham is that. Next is Dam. Dam is the sense organs go back to the mind. They don't keep on traveling outside, because in meditation we withdraw our mind, or the tendencies of the mind which are going towards external objects. We withdraw them, and then we rest them in the heart, where heart is beating, and we rest our attention there on the subtle presence of God there. So the senses also, as a result of this training, they merge back into the mind. The third condition is Uparati, which is a much finer state than Vairagya, where in Vairagya there is a little bit of a negative feeling towards the world, a little bit. But in Uparati, even that feeling will not be there. Equanimity will be in very high degree, and then you will not be critical of anything in this world, because everything is God. So that's the thing. Anyway, even in Patanjali, he talks about two kinds of Vairagyas. One Vairagya is not succumbing to the desires, physical desires. The other Vairagya talks of a higher Vairagya, where you transcended the gunas itself. Gunas are the movements in your mind. Any cognition, any perception, or any feeling, or any emotion, any thought is a vritti in your mind. So when you transcend the gunas itself, that means you transcend the mind itself. That is a higher Vairagya. I mean, that's a very, very advanced condition. So, but we should know whether we are traveling in that direction. And when you're moving in that direction, you'll be free from all these attachments to religious figures. Even Babuji asks you to transcend attachment to himself also. He says, that's is written actually. We have a similar story like in Sufism, the Jalaluddin Rumi was extremely attached to his guru. So Guru realized that his further spiritual progress is getting blocked because of his attachment to the Guru. So he disappears. He gets out of the place. He's gone. So finally, he had to, learn to be independent, away from the protection of the Guru. The Guru himself disappears from that location, and then, of course, that person becomes depressed. Later on, he recovers from that. So that is Vairagya, where, your attachment to Guru also becomes a problem later on. Anyway, each person has to meditate to find out all these things. But it's a discussion just for an information, actually. Anything else, we'll go, otherwise we'll go further. Some person asked whether he should take responsibility for his son, who is 2 years old or 3 years old. These are the questions not to be asked in the context of discussion on Vairagya. They are matters of day-to-day concern which should be addressed keeping in view the guidelines arising out of our understanding on the nature of trusteeship. We should do whatever we can to see that the person entrusted to our care grows to the level which he has to grow. But if we take extraordinary interest in that person, to say that the person should become this or that, and if he does not become that, then we get into troubles. A rose can never become a tamarind tree. Do whatever we want with all the mutations that are possible today. It will never become that. It is only our undue attachment or a possessive attitude towards that person who is entrusted to our care that makes us err here. It is only an example that I'm trying to give, applied to every field. We will know on our own where is the moderation. The mother being attached to the son so much may ask him to eat 4 times a day because she suffers from undue attachment. If he is properly attached, then he will politely say no. As you were told the other day, to say no when we have to say no is Viveka. And without learning that, we are not going to learn Vairagya. Day-to-day problems are only this. We have to say yes, this is about it. And there are not only we have to say no, but we should also understand that we are also putting a restriction to that relationship. The other person is trying to extend the relationship beyond a limit. And to me, we are trying to tell no, this is the end of it. The limit of elasticity ends there. It is the feeling sector where we have got to renounce. Once we know how to say no in the feeling sector, I think in any other plane we can easily manage. And if we don't know how to manage that situation of the feeling, the chances are we will be the first person to be emotionally blackmailed. And this happens every day. Every day this happens in our lives. Somebody blackmails us. The emotional blackmail happens to us because we do not know where to put an end to it. We do not know how to renounce the feeling. We must know this is where I cut off. This is where I sever. We don't know that we will be in troubles. But these are all matters of other than the pure topic of Vairagya. This point, personally, I can relate. Several times he commented, you learn how to say no to me. He used to say, you always say yes to everybody. You should, if it is interfering with your spiritual goals, you should say no. And he has detected that I didn't have that, probably that strength to succumb to friends' wishes and all that. The workshop on Vairagya about which we are talking about clarifying certain points has a more serious approach. The fomentation from point 1A is the place from which the trainer is going to work on this occasion. If a person were to be stabilized in that position, and if you were to grant a sitting to you, you are likely to feel to that extent detached. But that detachment is something which you should be craving for yourself. This is the important point. So unless you have notes of the Abhyasi, you will not be able to, and you meet him frequently, you will not be able to give appropriate suggestion. If you're not asking for that, no one can infuse the condition into you. As I always say, the pact between you and God is a secret one and perfect too. No one has got any business to interfere with your karma unless you're prepared for that. No one can be compelled to get transformed. Transformation is a volition, is a will. We want to transform, therefore we get transformed. This notion must be very clear in your mind. As we have seen, there are avasthas, there are ashramas are there. We cannot ask certain things to the extremes, and that arises mainly because of our bad understanding of Vedanta. The question that if Shankaracharya could renounce in his 6th year, why not me, is essentially not relevant, as you are not Shankaracharya. Secondly, nor are your priorities are his. Your priorities are different from his priorities. His work was different from your work. We tend to think that every one of us are equally endowed in our samskaras. We should note there is a difference. Every one of us have got our own unique samskaras. It so happens we all seem to have a common samskara of thinking about the divine, thinking about something other than ourselves, understanding our lowliness and trying to appreciate another person's greatness. Apart from this, the way in which we talk, the way in which we move, the way in which we dress, the way in which we live, the people with whom we move about, they are all different. Our relationships are different. The intensity of our relationships are different. So to say that what is applicable to Adi Shankara should be applicable to us is not correct, because that is not our goal. Our goal is something different. As we have seen in the talk on Viveka, our goal, clarity itself, is in troubles. If our goal is the realization of the ultimate essence of our being, you can see that I qualify realization of what? Realization of the ultimate essence of our being. Then we will not be interested in other realizations. Realization of what is to see a TV, or how a TV is produced, how networking happens, how a businessman does his business. All these things are not our concern in this context. If realization of the ultimate essence of our being is what concerns us all the time, our career naturally takes a lesser precedence. Our relationship with our parents takes a lesser precedence. And so our relationship with children, and therefore we will not bother about them too much. In this connection, I would like to recall a statement of Pujya Lalaji Maharaj: don't move with children. It is not clear as to how many of us contemplated over that, how many of us meditated over that. Any of you thought about this? He says, don't move with children.
Because they want to create, they want to do the things, and here we are coming out of the attachments and feelings.
No,
it would be interference with the child's fate, rather.
No. Sir actually will explain the thing, but I want, what are your opinions about it? Why should we, child will not interfere, because it's our duty to guide them also. We have to tell them what is truth, what is God, and what are your responsibilities to society, to parents, responsibility to learn things in life so that he'll be able to manage his life. There is a role for parents to bring up the child correctly. So there is a role. We cannot simply abandon them, because human babies, they are the most vulnerable. Otherwise, other animals, they are born with a capacity to live independently the moment they are born. Child, if is not fed, will die. So there is definitely a role. But Babuji, Lalaji, don't move with children, he says. What is the reason about it?
They're hankering for experience, maybe, sir. They're still looking for experience in this world while we are trying to withdraw. So they are in the initial stage of trying to explore. We are trying to withdraw, and hanging out with them too much or getting unduly attached might move us in the wrong direction. We have to do our duty though.
That is one correct thinking. Yeah. Anything else? Child actually, infant terrible, that's the word used. That means if he wants a toy, he goes, you go take him to a mall and then he says, I want this ice cream or toy. If you don't, you throw a tantrum and then entire blackmail he will do. So you succumb to his desires. So by instead of disciplining him, if you are attached to the child in the name of so-called love, whereas it is only an attachment, you pamper to his desires. And if you pamper to his desires, you are strengthening the materialistic philosophy of pleasure seeking in the cosmic level. In that sense, it will affect you also, because we are supposed to, we have taken birth to realize our true essence. And true essence is, you will come to know only when you have Vairagya, when you realize that everything is you are infinite itself. Then there is no separate thing as an object or subject. So everything is yours. So when you have desires only happen when there is a division in your mind between subject and object. You feel the object is separate from you, so you want to acquire that object. So child embodies this feeling of wanting and desiring and all that. So by moving with children, you have to pamper to that. So in that sense, you will be strengthening the overall cosmic atmosphere by strengthening this impulse rather than spiritual thinking. That's one idea. Anyway, let us see what Sir is telling. It is not clear as to how many of us have contemplated over that, how many of us meditated over that. The reason for that is the child is a new manifestation, and we are trying to get back from manifestation. Therefore, these two are contradictory forces and are not compatible, as Balu has said. The goals of the child and that of us who seek return to the homeland are not compatible. In the company of children, we get lost in frivolousness, fun, frolic, play. Thus, having lost in that and the seriousness with which we are supposed to engage in search of that essence of our being is lost. Should we therefore renounce them? Surely not. We attend to them to the extent we are supposed to and don't get attached more than what is necessary. But we tend to get attached there for the only reason children are helpless beings and we can easily impose our supremacy over them. Wait for another 10 years, the child is not prepared to accept what we say. Wait for another 20 years, it refuses to hear what we say. 30 years, it is independent on its own. What has happened to the child whom we have pampered? What has happened to it? What has happened to our feelings? The feelings are all in our heart. If we have unfortunately granted permanency to it, we will be the worst sufferer of that, as it has happened in the case of King Dasharatha. The attachment for Lord Rama for him meant his death. Right, that is because he retained that feeling even when his son has grown. We should have allowed him to grow, as sage Vishwamitra told him. Sage Vishwamitra told him, your sons are all divine people who are meant to destroy evil, and you are not to hold them. Please leave them to attend to their divine duty. The king was clinging and arguing. Then sage Vasishtha said, Vishwamitra knows better hand over. In spite of that lesson, he never learnt it. In spite of the lesson that Lord Rama is a god incarnate, the father in Dasharatha was not prepared to leave his feelings and attachments to the son, which was dear to him. That is what an attachment to a child can mean. Please understand the importance of that sentence of revered Lalaji Maharaj. He simply made a statement there, allowing us to understand, and many of us don't even think about it. We tend to think that play is good, play is fine, not good. Play has not got limitations. We must know when to end our play. Similarly, our office is not good. It is fine. It is fine. It enables us to earn. There its importance ends. If we carry the office to our home, it has ruined us. If we carry our attachment for others into our meditation, we are lost. I've seen most of us, because one of the greatest obstacles which I faced in my own life because of peculiar tendency, I was accustomed to reading news, and then I was also a victim of this media addiction, actually. So once you get addicted, thought goes into several streams. You like one politician, you dislike other politician, you would wish that he would do this, he would do that, the country will become better, or our foreign policy will become strong, like that. And then the thought gets distracted into several streams, and that becomes a major obstruction for your spiritual growth. I struggled repeatedly, and I wrote in my diaries also. Then sir also did his work on me, but the problem is there. I'm talking personally about my problem. Might be there with other problems. Other people also must have similar attachments. It is fine. It enables us to earn. Its important ends. If we carry the office to our home, it has ruined us. If we carry our attachment for others into our meditation, we are lost. If our business were to interfere in our meditation because of the feelings, various feelings or attachment, then our meditation doesn't work. So it is renunciation of these feelings that is a must if you want a high quality of meditation. That means, in fact, Babuji has quoted a letter, actually. One of the very senior preceptors writes about the suffering in this world caused by wrong politics is purely about power. So a lot of cruelty, or cunningness, and then cheating, and then murders, and all those things take place. He was moved by it. He's kept on worrying about the general public and all that. So he writes to Babuji, and Babuji he answers. I will read that thing. He says, don't indulge in all these news and all that. I will read about it. I have to check up where I would say. So this will only interfere. It's not our duty. But it will become an obstacle for spirituality. You have to renounce that attachment to political persons, and then political ideologies and freedoms and all that. Everything happens as per cause and effect at a cosmic level. Things happen which we'll not be able to understand. But it interferes with our spiritual progress, definitely. If you take too much interest in politics. So this is my own feeling. I'm trying to tell it because I've suffered because of that. So it is the renunciation of these feelings that is a must if we want a high quality of meditation. Without proper renunciation, we will never be in a position to meditate well, because they'll be coming to us again and again. Once in a way we can understand, but we are going to have every day this problem. It is not good. We'll have this problem so long as we get attached to our children. That is why they say putreshana is something that is to be eschewed. Dhareshana is something to be eschewed. And dhaneshana is something to be eschewed. The three, that means putra, son. Dhareshana means womb or woman, or for woman it's men. Dhaneshana is money or power. It is because they do not permit us to think in terms of God. But our ways are excellent. We will say that we'll come with our dhara to the ultimate. We'll come with our putra to the ultimate. But then the ultimate essence of being accepts each on merits and not because of associations and relationships. The path to divinity is narrow, as beautifully explained by our temples on the mountain tops. Nowadays, journeys to these places of pilgrimage have become easy with better roads and transport facilities. In the past, the paths are so narrow that any time we can slip into the valley and we are lost. In some places, one has to crawl because that is the only way. There is a narrow place in which we have to move. We can't carry along with us our drums. We cannot assist those people here in a fraternal obligation to show them the path, to show them the way we can. but we can't carry them along with us because we never came with another. We will never go with another. So renunciation of these feelings and these attachments is a must. We may ask, should we therefore renounce the satsangs? No, we will never renounce the satsangs. We will keep the satsangs. We will try to move along with them as far as possible, and if necessary, move alone. And that is why we have to appreciate Revered Lalaji Maharaj's sentence. Satsang means keeping company with God and not keeping company with all others. That is where that phrase gains meaning in the real sense of the term. The one thing we can never renounce is God. The one thing that God cannot do is He can never renounce us. And that leads us to the second note, which intimates us of the inviolable and irrevocable interdependency with God. God has no alternative, nor have we to be together. He must manage with us and we must manage with Him. Before this state arrives, we must know Vairagya has to be firmly established in us. Our eye must be towards Him, and we should have a single-pointed orientation towards Him, knowing full well all other attachments, whether of beings or things or thoughts or feelings, as transient. To arrive at this, we must know that this too shall pass away. I repeat the sentence, this too shall pass away, is one awareness we should have in our hearts. Then our reaction to things also becomes much more moderate. Moderation becomes possible because the extreme position taken by the other person is not acceptable to us. If we can think for a moment, this too shall pass away, we will have happiness at least. There is no justification whatsoever for any attachment due to anything here as a possessive right. But every reason is there for us to get attached to everything that is here as a trustee. So long as we behave as a trustee, we have got every right to get attached. But the moment we cross that border and become possessive, we are lost in a problem from where it is very difficult to retreat. Thus comes the end of this talk on Vairagya. You must have read earlier, but then the ego has got a very Machiavellian tendency to rationalize our attachments, and it subtly drags you away from the path actually. So unless we read them again and again and then think over them deeply, we can fall into this trap.
Any questions, comments?
Namaste, sir. Just one comment, just observational, when he was quoting this example of, when a painter or a player who is in form and then suddenly he's told he's no more in form, so he would be taken out. Yeah. I think vice versa, many times, we have a tendency to, think that, okay, somebody points out you're so-and-so, you're at low level, or you can't progress or whatever, things like that also. I think vice versa condition also applies there. Like many people think that is it, and then.
No, that is why most trainers have come across, they're very compassionate. They always, like sir was, they always try to encourage you by saying you're in a good position. They'll point to you to correct it, but not to make you feel guilty about it. Right. They want you to get over these, point out, so that once you know, that is the light actually. But because generally what happens, most of our, like suppose I have a mistake, that mistake may be in a perception or an assumption I'll be having. And since that perception is part of my mind, and generally most of the people who are not serious meditators, the self or the Atman inside is the mind itself, because there is no, Vairagya is not yet developed in majority of the people. So that the distance between the seer and the mind is not there. So the seer is the truth, is the being. So the being gets merged with the mind. So you will always feel that you are correct. So any person who has got any thought, he feels he's right actually. And he is blind to his own errors in thinking or own faults. But it will be known to the trainer actually. So if you have trust in the trainer, and then if trainer points out that mistake, once the mistake is known, it is just like putting a torchlight in the darkness. You will be, once you become aware of the mistake, that itself begins the process of getting liberated from that mistake. Or you will start, it's just like how monkeys are caught in India. So they put a pot in the earth, narrow pot, and then they put some nuts or some sweet there. The monkey puts its hand there, it catches hold of nuts, and then because it's narrow opening, it cannot come out. Next day the hunter comes and catches it. So most of us are attached to our feelings, attached to our assumptions, attached to our body, attached to our friends and all that. We don't give it up. And but once we know that this is an obstruction or a path, if the trainer points out that mistake to you, and then you are sincerely have a clear idea about your goal, what is your goal, and you want to reach that goal, then you'll simply give it up, and then you're freed from that problem forever.
Right.
Because if the preceptor is doing it, if he's absorbed in the consciousness of God, that suggestion itself will remove your problem forever. And if you got certain rapport with that person. So generally, that's why they always encourage you, say you are in a better condition, so that you'll come up to that condition. Sir always, I asked him, so he says, if I say they will come up to that condition, so I will always tell them they're in a higher condition. So that question is basically, he's trying to tell you the issue of Viveka, because what happens, you must clearly, if you read Babuji's fourth commandment, he talks about various tendencies actually. One tendency asks you to take a walk in the open air. Another tendency says you will catch a cold. Another tendency says you develop friendship with a rich person. So these tendencies, so now like our problem is we think that like Raghavan is there, Madhava is there, we think we are a united person, we are the same person. It is not true. We are a collection of different persons inside us. Like today I will say that I will get up tomorrow at 4:30 and meditate for 2 hours. Tomorrow there is another person inside me, which is so-called tendency, which Babuji is talking. It is a different personality lying in my subconscious. That person will be active at 4:30 in the morning. He will say, no, not now. Why meditate 2 hours? You just meditate for 5 minutes and then go for a walk. So there are two people here. So that person who took a sankalpa that I'll get up at 4:30 and meditate for 2 hours, his voice is suppressed by another avatara of Raghavan who comes and says, no, spend for 5 minutes, go for a walk or something like that. We are not a united human being. There are several samskaras. Samskaras, you can think that there are several forces or persons sitting in your subconscious mind. There's a constant quarrel between those persons, and whoever is powerful, who can dominate, it will come into your conscious mind. So if the whole aim of meditation is you strengthen one thought about the master repeatedly, and the other things will become weak, and then you become a unified person.
Correct.
Like Babuji was there, he would treat me, his son, a person who is not meditated also has come for the first time, with the same affection, because he is a unified person. He will not say, oh, this fellow donated me 5,000 rupees. He's given me medicine. So he's attached to my organization, or he's from my caste. I'll treat him differently. He's my son. I'll treat him differently. Those are different personalities. We behave differently with my wife, or with your children, or with your friends, or with your own caste people. The different aspect of our personality comes when we talk to different people. But in a yogi, only one personality comes, because he becomes united. There's only one thought completely transforms the subconscious, because cleaning has taken place and God occupies your heart. And when God occupies your heart, he'll be dominating the scene. And then you become a unified person only when you're realized. Till that time, you have to keep practicing to see that you become a united person. Right. So what happens, like today I've done a beautiful surgery. So the other person will say he's a good surgeon, but other times I may be sick, or I may be in a foul mood, I may not produce a good result. So the other person will think he's the same person. No, I'm a different person at different times. So that is a point of Viveka actually. This is quite common. You can know ourselves. At sometimes we are very devoted to our spiritual cause. Sometimes it flanks. We keep changing. As there are ups and downs in our spiritual path, as you meditate more seriously, you become steady on the path. I mean, you have to think back to Babuji's idea that as your devotion increases, the path becomes smoother. I mean, it becomes easier to travel on the path when your bhakti develops. And right. Bhakti develops by your own efforts. You have to work for it. That's all. Nobody will gift it to you. You have to work it. You have to. It's a hard work. Once you become a united person, then there's no more work required. There's no more. You become the law yourself. And nature is under your control, and then there's no need for sadhana there. And even Babuji says, at that time, if you try to meditate, you'll develop breathlessness, because you have to pull yourself off and then think about God. When you're merged with him, you're not aware of yourself nor aware of God also. So meditation is only possible when there's a duality in your mind. So stage comes when the duality disappears, and that time you will work for the world. That's all.
How do you develop bhakti?
Practice only. You know whether your mind is controlled or not, whether you got sham or not, whether you got dham or not, whether you got viveka or vairagya or not. You'll come to know whether you're balanced or not. You'll come to know. As you are absorbed in more and more in God, you'll not be conscious of your own self, actually. That is the crux of it. You'll forget, you'll become, your behavior becomes childlike. You will be living only in the present, that's all.
But I have one more question. You referred to sham earlier. Is that the first not condition, or where does it come? Is it second?
Not only, because once viveka comes, even earlier also upper portion of the heart, suppose, but the first one, when the viveka comes, everything is like my body is decomposed and it will die. My thoughts keep on changing. My feelings keep on changing. The kingdoms keep on going. Golconda Fort has gone. I mean, the Delhi Sultanate has gone. Big kingdoms. Everybody is going to die. Everything is in a change of flux. So this body, this mind is also a combination of this buddhi, manasu, and actually that also disintegrates. So behind the mind, the Atman is there. That is called Sat Asat Viveka. Sat is permanent and infinite, and nobody can describe what Sat is. Even though Brahma Sutras, you see, they describe it by negation, not this, not this, not this. But nobody can describe what it is. So that's why best Babuji says it is as it is. That's the word he has used. And most people use the similar kind of language, because it is so ineffable, it's very difficult to put it in words. So once that is Sat, and the changing thing, your body and mind and the world and your friends and relatives, everything is going to get destroyed. Change, I don't say destroyed it. Change is a permanent thing. The change keeps on changing. Once that understanding becomes firm in you, once that feeling that this world means including your body and other bodies and nature, everything is a changing thing. Then what's the point? In changing thing will never give you happiness. Suppose you're hungry, you're very hungry, you're uncomfortable because of hunger, and you at the time if you're hungry for 2-3 days, and if you eat food, you'll become happy. But then that happiness will not be permanent, because you get digested and you may get vomiting, headache. So you can never get true happiness if you try to search in things which are changing constantly. So automatically you will detach yourself from changing things. So that is called viveka. Once viveka comes, the sham comes. So actually, we divert the attention, the thought force to the Atman point. And with that, the tendencies of mind spontaneously start thinking about God. And then automatically you get a state of sham. But mind you, the condition is you must, one condition which Babuji would not relax in this system is, you should have a clear idea that you want God realization, or you should have a clear idea that you want to merge in God, or then you want to know your true self. That is, there is no negotiation on that point. And if that point is there, with that idea, if you do meditations with the blessings of Master and with his power, it comes very, very quickly. If that is not there, you want to get rid of your problems, your headache or financial problems or interpersonal problems, your political issues, your world is suffering, all those things will not work. So one non-negotiable contract in yoga is, you should be clear that you toward the real goal of human life. There, God, the all-pervasive God, is in your heart, and you want to feel him fully. And that decision and that clarity of goal, if you have, that is non-negotiable in Babuji's system. With that idea, if you search and go to a trainer for training, even if the trainer is not up to the mark, the God will take over and then do the job for you. Anything else?
Any other questions, comments?
But if more people are absorbed in divine consciousness, it has got a multiplier effect with the other people, because the smell of that mind which is absorbed in God, whether you like it or not, will spread into the atmosphere, and people will be benefited by it. Their goal clarity also develops further. So more people to do serious meditation, that's the best social service you can do. You don't have to talk about Babuji or method and all that. You just remain quiet at one place, just do serious meditation. That's all. Sincere meditation, I would say.
I read somewhere that Vivekananda has said that a yogi should cultivate the habit of living alone.
We all live alone. Like, I am there, I am living alone. Alone means you have the company of God, no? But later on, after, because during your journey, you are immersed in society. You cannot renounce the society also. You have to live in society. So Padma Patra Mimambasa means you should remain in the society but not be affected by the society. You should, that is called moderation also. That is, yogi develops that. But he can be comfortable living alone. He can be comfortable in a crowd also. But in the crowd, he may become like Babuji uses the word several places. The saint is a vacuum cleaner. He attracts all the dirt. he is more vulnerable to suffer, because that's the point where how much, that's a different issue. But we all can live alone, no problem. It is easy because you can meditate without any disturbance or distractions. If you are alone, you can enjoy meditation much better. Because you don't have to put on, don't have to impress people. They will demand your time and attention. So all that are all distractions now. So if you're retired, you're having a lot of free time. It's a big advantage for meditator.
Even Santa Tukaram has said, when he lost his family and children and all, he said, now it is very easy for me to seek God.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll not, those are all good things. But our system is meant for grahasthas. We have duties to perform. And then we cannot live alone. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, this thing is also, they talk of becoming a monk and renunciation. We want to, and Buddhism also, they said you have to take Diksha, then completely detached from it. So our path is different. Our path is yoga, where as per Babuji, Grihastha life gives you tremendous advantages to progress fast in spiritual life, because in Grihastha life you have to sacrifice, and sacrifice is a divine quality. And you cannot merge in God unless you have qualities similar to God. And similar quality of God is sacrifice. That's why we say Matru Deva Bhava and Pitru Deva Bhava, because mother is the one embodiment of sacrifice. So sacrifice is only possible in a Grihastha life. If it's not possible for a monk living in Ramakrishna Mutt, or Buddhist monk who is living in a forest trying to meditate 24 hours of the day. So that's practically not possible for majority of the humanity, only few people, because society cannot run by withdrawing yourself to a jungle or a mountain or this thing. Society requires a collective action to thrive and this thing. So Grihastha life, in that sense, Hinduism, you may accuse me of this thing, but rationally thinking, it is a vast and wisdom thing which has grown out of India. I mean, it's applicable to everybody. The greatest potential for psychological growth is possible in Hindu way of life, where Grihastha has got duties. He has to work honestly, provide for education, food, and all of his children, and then also look after the guests, also do his duties towards the country. If a situation comes, he has to give his life to protect the country, participating in warfare, what all, everything is there.
Anything else?
Another one small incident I wanted to share, when Sir was mentioning about whether my son is 2 years, 3 years, why should I take responsibility or not? One of our senior Abhyasis, he was a professor, but he had meager income, but he had many children. So children were constantly criticizing him that he has not earned enough money, because he was not corrupt at all. He was extremely honest. So the salary he was getting was not enough to pamper to the children's desires of having cars or holidays and all that. So he wrote that similar thing to Babuji, and Babuji replied, he showed me that reply. He says, he had, I think, 5 children. He said, up to 10th class high school, it is a responsibility to bring them up to 10th class. Afterwards, it's not your responsibility, because they knew that they knew before taking birth in your family what is your financial position is. So voluntarily they choose your life. So you're not responsible. If they should have chosen a rich man's family. So he said, it's not, you're responsible up to 10th class. Afterwards, you don't care. That's what the reply Babuji wrote to that person. So every person, he chooses a family where those particular samskaras have a chance to get unfolded. Actually, you choose to be born in a leper's family, or you choose to be born in a cruel man's family, or whatever, or in a poor family or a medium family and all that, because only in those circumstances the particular samskaras will, there's a chance to come to bhoga actually. So the soul, when it's trying to get born, it will try to, that's why good souls have, they spend a lot of time searching for a proper home. This well-known thing. So that's the thing. Anyway, this is by the way. So we'll meet next Sunday then.